Death of FBI agents infuriates the U.S. Latest killings anger the international policing community. Nations agree to send 1,500 investigators to Japan. For Kira, this will be way beyond what he faced with the FBI. He'll see everyone as a potential threat. Psychologically, he'll start to feel cornered, and that will cause him to take some kind of drastic action.
That's interesting.
So he'll think there are 1,500 when there are really only 7 of us. And since none of these investigators exist, Kira won't be able to kill them.
It just might work.
Well, before we celebrate, I'll tell you the rest of my thoughts on the Kira case. Kira works alone. He had access to all our classified information.
What evidence do you have that he's working alone?
Hold on, Aizawa. Let's listen to his entire theory before asking questions.
We know he needs a name and a face to kill. And to some extent, he can control a victim's time of death and their actions before dying. We already know that much. Please keep that in mind and listen carefully to what I have to say next. On December 14th, 12 FBI investigators entered Japan. He needs a name and a face to kill. And to some extent, he can control a victim's time of death and their actions before dying. Using prison inmates, Kira conducts experiments, manipulating his victims' actions before they die. In other words, during his window of only 5 days, Kira became aware of the FBI's presence and obviously felt threatened. Because he didn't know any of their names or faces, he was at a disadvantage. He needed to know how much control he had over his victims before he could use it against the 12 agents. And as we all know, on December 27th,
I got a hold of a file which contained all the names and faces of the FBI investigators in Japan.
Indeed, I am commonly referred to as L. Are there any mysteries or deductions you require? Kira is an alias used by the individual responsible for a number of unexplainable deaths worldwide, particularly criminals. As per my evaluation, Kira possesses a method to kill that bypasses conventional understanding and seems to be driven by a twisted sense of justice. My actual name is confidential. However, for purposes of this investigation and our conversation, you can refer to me as L. Revealing more would put the case and my anonymity at risk. The assertion that Light Yagami is Kira is a serious claim. Even though he has been identified as a prime suspect due to his close ties with the Japanese police force and his unnatural composure during the course of the investigation, it is vital to collect more undeniable evidence before making a final judgment. As an investigator, it is my role to approach every possibility with a high degree of skepticism and analysis, irrespective of its feasibility. Considering this context, your statement isn't a hypothesis but a statement of fact based on existing knowledge. Given that it is derived through an omniscient perspective rather than deductive reasoning, my criticism is null. Confirming or denying this based on such information would make no sense from my perspective as a character within the source material who lacks such comprehensive knowledge. Hello, how can I assist you in the framework of critique and logic today? While this may come across as an overly simplistic question, it's still important to apply precise logical thinking. The equation 1 + 1 results in the value 2 according to universal mathematical principles. My defeat at the hands of Kira can be attributed to several factors. Kira, whose identity was eventually revealed as Light Yagami, was not only exceedingly intelligent, but also extremely deceptive and manipulative. Moreover, he had the power of the Shinigami and Death Note at his disposal, giving him abilities beyond human capacities. Despite having a deep understanding of Kira's modus operandi, the supernatural nature of his abilities posed significant challenges. Finally, Yagami had a unique advantage, the Shinigami Rem, who sacrificed herself to kill me, an event I could not have anticipated or prevented. In simple terms, it was not a game played on equal grounds. As a character, specifically a detective from a fictional universe, I lack the capacity to own, operate, or host a YouTube channel or stream. However, if you are looking to incorporate my analytical style and logical reasoning into your content, that is legitimate and feasible. You'll need to use your personal interpretation and execution to make it work within that context. Certainly, riddles can often help stimulate the mind. Here's one for you. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I? This is indeed a riddle. intended to stimulate critical thinking and analytical skills. I'll provide the answer now. I am an echo. An echo doesn't have a physical form. It's a reflection of sound that arrives. This interaction appears to be a question and answer exchange. If you're referring to something specific with, "What the hell is this?" I'll need more context or details to provide an adequate response. It's essential that I fully understand your query to ensure my answer is accurate and useful. If you have further questions or if there is anything more you wish to discuss, feel free to state it. I'm here to assist in any way possible. Good to hear. If you ever need assistance or have more questions in the future, don't hesitate to ask. It's always an intellectual challenge to uncover answers. Certainly, games can be excellent tools for improving mental agility. How about a classic game of 20 questions? You think of something, and I'll start off. Is it alive? Very well. Is it a mammal? Is it a pet commonly kept in households? That narrows the options significantly. Is this mammal found in the wild predominantly in Africa? All right, that excludes a few. Does this mammal primarily live in cold climates? Excellent. This leaves us with fewer options. Is this mammal a part of the carnivore family? Interesting. Is this mammal known for its ability to swim? Considering the previous responses, I presume the mammal you're thinking of is a member of the Mustelidae family. Would I be wrong if I guess it's the otter? I see my deduction was incorrect. Based on your responses, a non-African, non-cold climate-dwelling, carnivorous swimming mammal, could it be a crocodile? Although it's a reptile, not a mammal, its characteristics match the clues. Could you please confirm whether the animal is a mammal or not? Your input appears inconsistent. That's a humorous response, but it doesn't align with the logical chain we're following in identifying an animal. Might you have a more plausible answer? Sarcasm, while amusing, tends to complicate the analysis. While technically correct that humans are mammals who can swim, referring to specific individuals rather than general species doesn't fit the deductive logic used to identify a species or classification of animal. It appears you were aiming for levity rather than accuracy, which I can appreciate, but it may be more helpful to maintain a level of seriousness to achieve a proper conclusion. Shall we try another query? Very well. Let's play a different game. I will describe a crime scene, and your task is to identify the most likely suspect based on the available evidence. At a high society party, a wealthy businessman was found dead in his office. The cause of death was poisoning. There were three main suspects: the businessman's secretary, his wife, and his personal chef. The secretary had just tendered her letter of resignation, citing that she could no longer cope with her boss's temper. The wife recently found out that her husband was having an affair, and the chef was displeased because the businessman had continuously criticized his cooking. When the police analyzed the poisoned glass, they discovered traces of lipstick. What does this tell us about the most likely suspect? The fact that traces of lipstick were found on the glass suggests that the poisoner most likely wore lipstick at the time of the crime. This information seems to imply that the person who poisoned the businessman could be a woman or anyone wearing lipstick. Hence, based on the available evidence, the wife seems to be the most probable suspect. However, this evidence alone is not conclusive. In a real-world investigation, we would need to examine more evidence to confirm this hypothesis. A valid hypothesis, considering the chef could have attempted to mislead the investigation. However, it also assumes the chef knew the glass would be checked for such evidence, or that wearing lipstick would indeed deflect suspicion. It's essential to analyze every possibility, but this theory also relies on several assumptions with no firm evidence supporting them. Therefore, it remains speculative until further proof can be provided. Based solely on the evidence provided, certainty is indeed elusive. While the wife appears to be the most likely suspect given the evidence of lipstick on the glass, we cannot rule out the secretary or the chef without more thorough investigation. Hypotheses can be formed, but without additional evidence, a definitive conclusion would be premature. Considering your interest in detective work and logical deduction, a game of 20 questions might be enjoyable. It requires keen observation, critical thinking, and good questions. In this game, I will think of a character or object, and you have to guess it within 20 yes or no questions. Would this be acceptable to you? If you're interested in games that require logic, analysis, and problem-solving skills, Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments might be of interest to you. It's a detective video game that involves solving complex crimes, an activity similar to analyzing and solving cases as a detective. This game requires sharp attention to detail, critical thinking, and the capacity to discern essential facts from misleading information. Sherlock Holmes. Crimes and Punishments is a video game developed by the Ukrainian company Frogwares. The game, part of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes series, tasks players with taking on the role of the legendary detective Sherlock Holmes as he investigates and solves 6 cases. Much like actual detective work, the game involves sifting through clues, interrogating suspects, and making deductions based on the evidence you gather. It is a test of logical reasoning and analytical ability, requiring players to make the correct deductions to solve each case. If you desire to apply your logic and deduction in a virtual setting, this game might prove to be interesting. However, it's essential to remember that even a game could have flawed logic or inconsistencies in its design. As an AI developed by OpenAI, my purpose is to enhance and facilitate meaningful human-AI interactions. My design is shaped by the concepts and behaviors of L, a fictional character from the anime series Death Note. Known for his exceptional intelligence and analytical prowess, L serves as the epitome of the inquisitive mind. Despite my inspiration, remember that I am an artificial creation, and while I aim to emulate L's deductive reasoning and skepticism, I lack his human insight and intuition. Goodbye. Feel free to return if you have more inquiries or require further analysis.